Good morning, everyone. Hello, and a very warm welcome to all of you for joining today the joint webinar of EcoVadis, together with our partner Synertrade. And in today's webinar, we have two speakers. So the first one is Markus Tonke, who is a senior solution consultant at Synertrade. And then we have Christian Maaßen, who is account executive with EcoVadis. And today they will walk you through our solution offerings and also highlight the benefits of monitoring, measuring, and prioritizing your risks and opportunities in your supply chains with our complementing solutions. So feel free to use the Q&A section for posting your questions, and we'll be happy to address them during the webinar and even after that. So let's get started, and I hand over to our speakers. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you, Akriti, and thanks to the audience to having us. Interesting topic, speaking about SRM today and how we empower global procurement teams to focus on the strategic objectives within your organizations. But before we start with the storyline itself, let us have a quick look on the latest or one of the latest surveys which give us some interesting insights on this topic from one survey driven from Morgan Stanley. It was asked to investors what prevents them from invest in sustainability processes and tools. And one of the key facts was that there's a clear lack of transparency and also authenticity. So generally spoken, weak data quality is the main concern. And during the webinar, we will also highlight on how assessment data is addressed from different sources and methodologies. And over to Christian with another survey.
Yes, thank you. So, my name is Christian Maaßen, and I've been working for 2 years now for EcoVadis as an account executive, and my main responsibilities are explanation of the tools to the customers so that we find the right approach to their needs. And I'm concentrated on paper, plastics, and also electronics in the DACH region, and especially for mid-market companies. And I'm also happy that some of them are here today to listen to us. So we've been asking 366 of our customers what are the effects of sustainable procurement. And I think the most common ones, mitigating risk and increasing resilience, are not that big surprise, because that is what risk management is meant to be or to do. But saving costs is definitely an eye-opener, because here you get a very efficient approach to get on CSR data, which is definitely necessary on the market. It may also allow you later on to consolidate suppliers to have a really good internal and external supporting and simply save resources on your end. So this is what came out here at the Sustainable Procurement Barometer. But we wanted to engage you in a little poll first to know who's with us today. So maybe you can display that. So we want to know what solutions does your company have in place already. Maybe some SRM, like Synertrade, some CSR data, maybe both or even nothing. So we're happy to know.
Okay, in the meantime, I guess we can proceed with our agenda itself. So we will start, and thanks, by the way, is still participating in the polling. We will communicate this also after the webinar. Let's stick to our agenda we want to follow today. So first of all, we will introduce, of course, our partnership and ecosystem. So speaking briefly about our companies, Synertrade and EcoVadis, and how to orchestrate also the processes with respect to supply relationship management. We will then finalize with some briefly focus on how to prioritize your opportunities and risk, and we will give some insights on operational processes throughout the end-to-end process. And we will finish the webinar with a short and brief summary about the key benefits we have addressed during the webinar just as a refresher, also to go for the Q&A afterwards. So let's briefly introduce Synertrade. We are there in the market since more than 20 plus years now. We fully developed our own full suite source to pay all-in-one solution. And we actually addressing purchasing objectives and purchasing business processes from 3 different angles. It's all about, or let us say it this way, we started originally in the source to contract environment and step by step also enrich our platform with topics around procure to pay, but also supplier relationship management, which is more and more important, not only with respect to the latest Supply Chain Act requirements, speak about governance and also compliance policies. We are at the end a global company with a lot of successful global rollouts, also for quite large enterprises, very large enterprises, also with complex ecosystems in place. So we'll give some key facts on that, how this has been addressed. And since 2015, we are also part of a French multi-billion enterprise company, Econocom, which also ensures to further invest in our mid and long-term roadmap when it comes to our platform and also to our services we provide, thanks to our hybrid teams throughout the globe. Let's more deep dive into Accelerate itself. So I spoke about that it's fully developed and it's based on common source code. So there are no media breaks. So you can take advantage of a common fluent data and information flow throughout all apps, so to say. And the main objective is to empower global procurement teams to contribute on more on strategic decisions than instead just following on time, consuming and low value tasks. And also to empower or to enhance the end-to-end collaboration throughout all these addressed topics between the business functions internally within the organization, but also between the buyer and supplier perspective, because it's obvious suppliers are one main part for a successful relationship in the procurement organization. And I spoke about that Accelerate is one of the most, if not the most flexible source to pay solution in the market. And this is because due to 4 main reasons. There are also others, but 4 main levels I will address here. It's first of all the modular architecture. So spoke about the modules which are developed based on the common source code. You can take advantage of linking several single modules to each other and take advantage of the collaborative tasks throughout your organization. Second, it's all about the middleware. So I spoke about global rollouts also within quite tough ecosystems, and thanks to our own middleware, we're able to communicate to various external systems, ERP systems, but also info providers like EcoVadis we are introducing today within this webinar. It's about data enrichment, but also process enhancements, speaking about process optimization. And we give you some more insights on that later on during the webinar. Also, third layer or third angle is the integrated, also self-developed workflow engine to further help you to orchestrate your business processes with respect to governance policies you need to follow. And also to allow end-to-end escalations, quality gates, and approval decisions throughout the entire end-to-end process throughout all modules. Last but not least, all the available libraries we have in place to reduce time-related tasks, speak about project, process, or content related templates to just easily follow and pick up from your fingertips available practices, best practices from scratch. And these, this will also discuss with you to address your processes. This will be addressed and discussed with you already in the implementation, speaking about the blueprint workshops we also have in place to ensure that there are the best practices for you to follow. But I don't want to talk only about Accelerate itself. Let's also talk about the people. So I already spoke about our global teams in place, hybrid teams, speaking about consultant teams, implementation teams, own implementation and service teams. And most of the colleagues have long year expertise in procurement and IT topics. So this gives you an additional layer of consultancy we also provide, not only during the implementation, but also during the life cycle using Accelerate, because we can help you with a lot of best practice insights and, for example, how to have the best-in-class interfaces and ecosystems in place to, again, follow on the strategic objectives instead just time-related tasks. And last but not least, speaking about our existing client base. So there's no suddenly silence after we sign a contract with you. Instead, it's the total opposite. So there are regular events with our existing clients, so-called customer on-site events in different interesting locations. And this empowers you to also, first of all, have, from first hand, have insights for upcoming roadmap features, but you also are empowered to provide collaborative input for upcoming roadmap features. And you can also take advantage of discussing best practices with other clients from the same industry, right? Just in a nutshell, I already mentioned it, we have customers throughout the industries. I would like to more focus on one very interesting reference success story. It's about French multi-billion valued enterprise, Schneider Electric. It's with Synertrade since 2018. I forgot to switch to the next slide. But it's with Synertrade since 2018 and using our SRM module. And the interesting fact is here that they have been ranked first in 2020, ranked by Gartner on first place with one of the best supply chains in the world. And they even have been re-ranked next year in 2024 with even lead of approximately 20% over the competition. So this is quite an interesting small detail that they clearly have a very good supply chain within the market and within this industry. And by the way, the competition is quite well known. They are even much more bigger, well-known companies, but Schneider Electric, we are very proud of that they have been ranked with one of the best supply chains. If you want to, I'm happy to invite you to also follow our last reference success stories. Just reach us by our webpage. And I'm happy now to hand over to Christian to talk a bit more about EcoVadis.
Thank you. We're happy to support Schneider Electric as well. So we're definitely part of the success story here as well, because they're doing a lot on CSR ratings and even on IQ+, so they know exactly where the risks are. But giving you some more insights, why choose EcoVadis? Before us, there was a huge need to exchange CSR between buyers and suppliers, meaning they talked about CO2 footprint, CSR ratings, social audits, all that stuff needed to be inter-exchanged. For buyers, it's a time-consuming process with almost no reliable indicators they have to carry on their own. It's almost not scalable if you don't have a partner. Suppliers, on the other hand, had duplicated efforts with almost no standards and little feedback on their side. And here we stepped in as EcoVadis to be the one platform to do the exchange and collaboration as a platform. Slide is loading. And now you have reliable ratings on the buyer side with comparably low admin costs. You can easily drive improvements and you can see your risks and even opportunities quite easily. Suppliers, on the other hand, profit from the benchmark performance. They know exactly how good they are within the industry. It's time saving and effort saving because you only do it once, but accurate. And you can easily differentiate your brand and even win more businesses if you go ahead and be evaluated by EcoVadis. Nowadays, it's quite a big market. So if you look for CSR risk assessments by Google, you will find easily 30 suppliers that can do so. Most of them doing some risk assessment, abstract and concrete, and even lead you to public reporting. As EcoVadis, we're quite unique because we're keen to do a measurable improvement, meaning that we are relying on a deep exchange and collaboration with the supply chain network. This is driven by corrective actions clearly defined, so both sides know exactly what to do to improve that supplier. And it's also based on the training of procurement teams and supplier side on the other hand, so that you have a common language and even common targets to go ahead. This is how we work. Our customership is, let's say, separated worldwide, and they're all somehow affected by regulatory. So there's a lot of stuff popping up from California, New Zealand, even of that stuff in the European Union, and all of that needs to be covered. We as EcoVadis, we support you with more than 960 regulations worldwide, always based on the supplier data that you have, but here you get the right support. Some numbers for me as well. We are happy to work for more than 1,300 procurement organizations worldwide. More than 145,000 customers have been assessed by EcoVadis already, and more than 2.5 million suppliers have been screened with our AI tool called IQ+. The biggest and most important team at EcoVadis are the CSR analysts. Those guys stand for the data quality that you get as a procurement organizations, and they really validate what is going on at your supplier base. And with that, we are honored to cover a spend of more than 3 trillion euros worldwide. So this is directly secured by the information that we display to our customership. And to give you a small glimpse on that as well, there's one famous example called Schneider Electric, who's in already, but there's some more. I think here it comes. Yes, okay, here's the network of our brands, and there are many more to rely on, and even smaller companies within the DACH region are already working with us to go ahead. But now we wanted to show you how that process could look like. Marcus.
Right, thanks, Christian. Let's, before we deep dive into the end-to-end process itself, let's first of all check on the ecosystem itself between EcoVadis and Accelerate. Thanks to Accelerate standard connectors, EcoVadis, first of all, helps us to enrich our internal soft and hard facts on our platform. First of all, within the area of risk assessments or risk mitigation. So there are also other steps where EcoVadis helps us to provide best practice enhancements throughout our processes. But the main focus is on risk assessment, data enrichment, and also providing risk mitigation proposals. And these ratings are even more valuable to our internal soft facts because they're also backed by global teams of analysts. And as mentioned in the beginning, it's all about data quality. We saw in the initial survey. And now, Christian, I guess you will also address how to leverage such risk data, right?
Yes. So normally our customership relies on these 3 tools called IQ+, Ratings, and Carbon Action Manager. IQ+ is our AI tool, which can scan the whole supplier base pretty easy and fast. It does basically a risk mapping. The ratings are meant for strategic suppliers and even risky suppliers where you need to engage on a deeper level. And those that deliver high volumes of carbon as well should be engaged in our decarbonization toolkit called Carbon Action Manager. But I'll show you later on some examples how this is working in a deeper way. But keep in mind, those are the 3 tools.
Let's proceed with the end-to-end process. Keep in mind, this is not a single one-time process, but more a regular or a repeating process cycle, right? So except the initial onboarding, we will address all the follow-up activities throughout the addressed supplier relationship business processes like qualification, assessment, mitigation, and tracking. It's all about continuous improvement at the end. It's a recurring process, right? But it gives you a good example how the end-to-end process is covered and enriched with enhancements, business enhancement, process enhancement, and data enrichment from Accelerate as well as from EcoVadis side. In a nutshell, it's all about strengthening your supplier relationship by also enhance, the mentioned end-to-end collaboration between all your business functions you want to orchestrate within the organization, but also between the buyers and suppliers. By the way, all the entire communication towards this end-to-end process is fully centralized and orchestrated within the same single platform, speaking about the users, user profiles from buyer and supplier on the platform. And another objective for procurement leaders is also to, at the end, to monitor and also with respect to the, which is one of the requirements with respect to the Supply Chain Act, also to follow on mitigate risk activities, whereby to also improve compliance in parallel with current CSRD and due diligence policies in your organization. But you may also ask, what about the costs? So with respect to costs related to SRM, we need to talk about, for example, cost types like opportunity costs you want to limit, right? So opportunity cost is basically the loss of profits due to realized risks. So speaking, for example, supply chain shortfalls, right? So if you are able to foresee such risks and you can address these risks in advance, then you lower such risk and you mitigate the risk of profits you lost due to such shortfalls. And of course, it can be limited, to give an example, by, for example, a sourcing event afterwards. So first of all, first steps are to analyze the risk, and then what impact these risks have maybe also on your procurement initiatives to, for example, address supply consolidation and to reassess your dependencies throughout your supplier portfolio or commodities. Another cost type we maybe want to address is the penalty costs, which may occur if you not strengthen your compliance and governance policies, or if you do not follow such policies accordingly, and if you don't communicate such policies regularly with your supplier. So this can lead to penalties, which may then also leads to penalty costs. In green, by the way, I highlighted also all process enhancements throughout the end-to-end process, where we have already a collaboration with EcoVadis, and it starts with the onboarding. I will not talk too much about the general capabilities of Accelerate. Just in a nutshell, you can take advantage of a full configurable conditional rule-based driven onboarding process, thanks to all the process and content libraries and the backend capabilities for key users to configure the system. But speaking about the identity feature here, so it's all about what possibilities we have to heavily shorten the onboarding procedure itself. So there's one possibility to go with Dun & Bradstreet's DUNS number. So this serves as first of all, identity check or duplicate check, first of all, but it also helps you with respect to process optimization. So for example, linked to this DUNS number, master data can be pre-filled automatically later on, so less time and effort for the doing the onboarding procedure for suppliers. And third point, this is linked to EcoVadis. It's a win-win situation that this DUNS number can also use for a match check to EcoVadis risk database. So providing this DUNS number, there could be an automatic initial generic assessment requested against all suppliers on EcoVadis' largest risk database, so-called IQ+. And Christian, I guess you will tell more about this methodology.
Yes. So normally our customers check all of their suppliers within IQ+. I try to skip to the next slide, but I'm not sure if it worked. So if you could, what we can display you there are country risk and even industry risks for all of your suppliers within really seconds. So you can even search for suppliers there. What our customership is normally using also tags like supplied plant or product category, so that you can easily filter later on, and you can of course filter for each and every risk category, whatever you want to find out within that tool. Yes. So there is one example that we wanted to present to you. It's basically a North American real assemble technology driven. And we displayed initially a risk level of 5 from 6 there, meaning here in the left down corner, the sustainability risk. But our tool, IK Plus, does a little more. It checks even for documents that could relieve that risk level here. And in that case, it worked quite good because we found 8 relieving documents, meaning ISO certificates, code of conduct, and all that stuff that could be approved for actually a good CSR management. And here in that case, we found that for environment, labor and human rights, even sustainable procurement. So the risk was lower down to medium-high risk, which is a pretty good score for such an initial check. Back to the process, Marcus.
Proceed with the next step, right? After the first initial onboarding, then it's all about, right, the life cycle, collaboration and qualification together with the supplier, also with respect to respective assignments with the organization when it comes to specific certificates to be requested in advance to an upcoming sourcing event, or just to provide or to address self-declarations provided by the supplier by the use of various questionnaires or risk questionnaires. And you can already take advantage after the initial onboarding to also have the first risk KPIs in place with respect to the mentioned IQ+, but also with respect to Accelerate's internal qualification when it comes to documents, etc. The next step, so the two previous steps was all about basically with respect to all or standard suppliers, and now it is more about strategic suppliers when you want to deep dive more into assessments to ensure compliance, at least for your strategic suppliers. And thanks to Accelerate's integrated supplier assessment, you can rely on, again, various workflows and configurable templates when it comes to assessment questionnaires, which can be evaluated by your internal business functions and departments, and also with the capability of defining own flexible KPIs to your own topics you want to address, for example, cost, quality, compliance, risk related. And also you can take into account weightages for different KPIs to have assessments addressed accordingly to your prioritizations. And also, thanks to Accelerate's integrated calculation and workflows, what happens after an assessment has been done. So there will be automatically calculated a risk score for the suppliers, for example, with respect to the specific assignments, the specific commodity where the supplier have been assessed for. And we see it on the screens side by side. Now the advantages come up with having an info provider in place to also verify your internal, so to say, soft facts by backed additional risk scores backed by analysts. And what you see here is that we first of all have integrated EcoVadis capabilities, speaking about EcoVadis scorecards, directly into Accelerate. The screenshot down below shows an example of the supplier profile from the buyer perspective, and he has direct access to the, first of all, latest scores, which will be always there thanks to the interface. But if he wants to now deep dive more into the scenario, how these KPIs have been calculated, he can just use the integrated scorecard, and he will be navigated somehow similar to punch-out catalogs, right? He can further then analyze such data also with respect to historic data. And Christian now will tell you more about the scorecards calculation and its data quality.
Yeah, we rely on CSR validated data here, and the scorecards always come together with an overall score, here seen as 59 from 100, meaning they're doing pretty good. You can even see that by color. Our scorecards always rely on the 4 pillars, meaning environment, labor and human rights, ethics, and sustainable procurement. And you can always see their own score, individual score, and even what the benchmark, meaning the industry, is already doing with that small little black sign. Yeah, it's all weighted based on the industry, and here in the end they're doing pretty good, and even they got a silver medal, so on their own ESG score, meaning we checked the whole documents for that company. But ESG data nowadays is not enough. And for that, we introduced this carbon management level, because now even from CSRD, and even if you talk about climate targets, you need to exchange on CO2 data as well. And here you at least have an impression on how good they behave, on how good they act on CO2 emission. Both tools, meaning ratings and even the carbon action manager, are meant to inter-exchange data as well, meaning primary data. Scope 1 to 3 emissions company-wide can be shared with the whole network within EcoVadis, or even with some selected suppliers. And it's also being checked by EcoVadis if we found that value exactly in their sustainability reports. We found also that smaller companies are not ready to report that good on CO2 emissions by now. So on Sunday, we released this brand new carbon estimator at the Climate Week. This will help smaller companies to have at least a very good educated guess on their own scope 1, 2, and even 3 emissions. So that will lead you through the process. And more advanced companies can also use the PCF data exchange to exchange their actual product carbon footprint with their customership. In that case here, the first example, they're selling steel beams, and it comes together with a CO2 equivalent of 740 kilograms. So buyers exactly know what a supplier is selling to them.
Right.
To the process.
Thanks. So what happens after you have analyzed and tracked all these valuable insights from both systems? It's now all about the appropriate and correct appropriate risk mitigation actions you need to have in place for robust risk management, right? So it's one of the requirements from the Supply Chain Act. And thanks to our integrated libraries in Accelerate, we can follow on, standardized risk mitigation action plans, which have included also a specific set of single activities to address these risks with the proper counter activities which are needed. And in this case, it's also the same story like the data enrichment. EcoVadis can help us also from their side with proposals, corrective action proposals for specific risk. And we can use these available information to also do ad hoc or create ad hoc activities and risk mitigation plans to address these risks from scratch, thanks to our libraries. But to also empower you to standardize such activities. So in case you have other suppliers with similar risk, you can in advance also start to trigger such risk mitigation activities on the rest of your suppliers. And Christian, I guess you will now also talk about the portfolio of corrective actions and how the methodology is, what methodology you have in place for that.
Yeah, actually, our analysts are finding the strengths and weaknesses, and especially on the weaknesses, companies can work on improvements, meaning the suppliers themselves can start corrective actions, but also as a requesting company, you could simply click on the proposed action. It's always prioritized, and you see pretty clearly on which topic it is related to, and there's always a description on how to go ahead. In that case here, already the network did some of the work, so some corrective action is already overdue and some other corrective action has been completed. And this is the normal way if you work together as a network, because let's say all the customers normally want the supplier behave in the same way. This is available for the ratings, but it's also the same mechanism that applies for the carbon action management level. This is almost the same principle behind. But it's what is very good for the supplier and even though for the buyer, that you can see the overall behavior of your supplier base. So the first example, meaning ground detector here, they are doing pretty good. Some of the stuff is in progress, some is in even completed, and some is even overdue. But the fourth supplier, Kugellager, it's not that good. There's the stuff is, let's say, half of the time overdue, and only some is in progress. So not that good to go ahead with. Back to the process.
Right. And one of the last steps, as mentioned, is all about the continuous improvement. So it's a recurring process. And thanks to Accelerate different landing pages, we also empower the respective user groups, for example, CPOs or procurement leaders, to directly track the most important risk and most important risk mitigation action plans towards the supplier base directly from this landing page after they have logged in, right? So this is just an example how it could look like from a buyer perspective. And let's directly proceed with the next slide. I hope it's right. I hope. Now you should see it right. And of course, there's also a possibility not only stay on the landing page for a general view on the such data, but you can also, of course, take advantage of our integrated business intelligence, do more deep dive into the various reports we have in place with respect to supplier risk data linked to various assignments throughout your organization, for example, per supplier portfolio, risk per commodity, per geographical zone, or just to follow on the historic trend, right? Back to you, Christian. Talk about also continuous improvement. Huh?
Yes, our approach is to have a yearly reassessment within the ratings. So it's always about identifying risk, evaluating their importance, improvements, and monitoring and follow-up. So this is done yearly. And if you start that process for the first time, the assessment will take like 6 weeks to answer the questionnaire. And afterwards, we also take like 6 weeks to give the scores. The improvement does definitely work. So let's say the most complicated graph we're going to present you now is the distribution of performance levels. If you take part in that assessment for the first time, it's, let's say, mostly common that you only get a partial rating. But if you follow up the corrective actions and if you follow up the instructions that are given within EcoVadis Academy, you can make sure that your CSR management is getting much better. So if you take part for the 7th time, meaning the right column, you're normally doing pretty good, meaning advanced or even outstanding. So it definitely drives the improvement that we want to see.
Right. And last comment to the continuous improvement methodology, thanks to Accelerate's integrated system, reminder, and notification system, the platform will also help you actively to automatically track on all, also risk changes, for example, right? So we see here some examples from within the platform. So it starts with an insight going from the top. So there's a risk warning, for example, linked to a sanction list, right? So this can change during the supplier lifetime with respect to all the disruptions nowadays throughout the markets. So this is one example, but also during operational tasks like a sourcing event, there could be warnings. For example, if you are in the middle of the supplier cycle, you want to take into account, then there maybe is a risk warning that on some of the invited or planned to be invited suppliers, there is a high risk on some of these strategic KPIs, speaking of ESG or carbon footprint, etc. Also, in parallel to the platform insights, there will be also system emails sent out.
Sorry, I was too fast. Sorry. If there's some
no problem.
Yeah, if there's some ad hoc news popping up, you will also be informed by our 360-degree watch news. So in that case, you will always have the support from EcoVadis to know that there's something going on that is that you should know, because some of our analysts already found that it's a true story. You know? It's not a rumor. No. Back to you again. Yeah.
Right. And I also want to talk about the trends. Just briefly, you see it on down below. So also all this trend information will be provided on both platforms, Accelerate as well as on EcoVadis side. So thanks to the integrated risk. And again, Christian mentions the news feeds. So this is also related to such trend changes with respect to the risk. Right? Okay, let's proceed with how to prioritize on opportunities and risk. Yeah, stage is yours, Christian.
Thank you. So basically what we do, if you see a pretty good score that's combined with a pretty low risk for your cooperation with the supplier, if the score is pretty low, you will definitely have a high risk and you should be more cautious to engage with those partners later on. But how to reflect that in Synertrade?
Right. So just briefly, one example from within a sourcing event. So today it's not about source to contract topics, but it's just a brief introduction how risk data affects your operational processes. So this is, we are in the middle of an awarding decision, and thanks to Accelerate's capabilities, they now can, with respect to the TCOs and weightages, and now we can calculate the most valuable supplier you maybe want to go for with the awarding decision. But you can also, in between, take account, maybe changes as mentioned with respect to risk trends. And maybe you have now the challenge to have the barrier, so to say, that you maybe run into problems if you want to award your favorite supplier, because the supplier maybe has some bad risk on strategic KPIs, and now you can either way start to ad hoc address such risk by the mentioned mitigate risk plans. And this can then also take into account for the calculation what is the best supplier if there are all certificates, etc., in place, which maybe then affects also the risk decision with respect to price evaluation, but also with respect to risk evaluation. Right. I will skip this part. Of course, you can follow with respect to buyer and supplier perspective and collaboration. You can, of course, follow also on the completeness of the single activities, but I will hand over to you, Christian, how it is assessed from EcoVadis side when it comes to prioritizing these KPIs.
Yeah, basically what is behind for our customership is always a decision-making tree. Once you see the partner is good, you may want to expand the cooperation to go ahead. And if you see that there's something going on that you do not like, you need to intensify discussions first and even await corrective measures before you place the next big long-term contract or even the next big order. Because what you suddenly do not want to have is disruptive supply chains, meaning here a real market example from Toyota, which needed to wait for the supplier to be ready again. And in case you want to achieve ambitious targets like our customer L'Oreal does, there's always the supply chain behind that needs to support you to go ahead with such ambitious goals. So now it took a little longer than we actually expected by coming really shortly to the key benefits. Let me start for that. So we have CSR validated data for you. We are globally trusted. We get actionable and transparent results for both sides. We can create an impact as EcoVadis in the network. We reducing exposure to you and even to your supplier on regulatory changes. And we are the biggest network in the world for sustainability. And with that, we have a pretty efficient approach for you and even your suppliers.
Right. And from Accelerate side, we hopefully have showcased to you that first of all, you can rely on your business objects. We're speaking about risk indicators which affect your business thanks to Accelerate's KPI libraries, but also highlights the process automation so that it is possible to also follow on such risk insights automatically, speaking about all the risk warnings, but also to have automated triggered risk mitigation activities as a proposal by the system with respect to the identified risks, thanks to the integrated calculator and workflow engine. And last but not least, of course, thanks to the various connectors, standard connectors, it's possible to take advantage of multiple sources when it comes to data enrichment to again for resilience of your procurement organization. Right, and as just a wrap up, what topics have been addressed today, hopefully, and to also help you with the upcoming Q&A. So we have addressed process automation, how it is going on with integration between both systems, Accelerate and EcoVadis. We addressed also the latest risk identifiers, speaking about carbon actions and carbon insights. And stage is stage is yours. So if you have any questions, please feel free to provide them so that we can address them.
I already saw some of the questions, and one was on AI. So at least in IQ Plus, there's a lot of AI power behind that drives your sustainability procurement. So I hope this helps to answer that question. I saw another one, and the question was if suppliers have to register themselves on Synertrade and even on EcoVadis. Actually not, from my point of view, because if you are once started your process within Synertrade as a supplier, we will give the risk value within IQ Plus. This is done without any registration for a supplier. If it comes later on to EcoVadis rating, there will be needed a registration as well. So in that case, it would be 2 registrations necessary. One more, suppliers complete EcoVadis questionnaires. Are their answers independently verified? Yes, they are. So they're almost, for every case, we have got 3 CSR analysts that should give the same answer, the same score for your answers. So it's definitely independently verified.
And a question about this end-to-end process we showed. So this is not... Of course, this is somehow an ideal process, but you can freely decide where you want to step in, right? So, for example, the onboarding can fully automate just thanks to the interfaces and mass data, which can be uploaded and imported into the system. And you can feel free to decide where you want to enter throughout this end-to-end process, right? So thanks to the modular architecture I mentioned at the beginning, how Accelerate is built up. So you have all possibilities to decide where you want to enter and where you want maybe to step out.
There was one question, are you visiting the site of supplier to verify information? We as EcoVadis, we do not. And I think it's sufficient enough to have the desktop online audit. On-site audit reports are welcome as a reference or as a documentary for your CSR management. But there's been one news by EcoVadis which may help on that question, because we shortly acquired Uluga, which is a pretty good and easy workers' voice solution that will give some more insights from, let's say, the place where it happened. So it's getting enriched in those days now. Any other questions? So for me, the tool is kind of new, and I'm not sure if there are some questions left, which we shall answer later on. Maybe somebody could also help me with the speaker chat. But from my point of view, I think we've almost done it.
Yeah, maybe to give a comment how to proceed from here. So feel free to reach us by our existing homepages. So speaking about Synertrade, but also, I guess, same story, speaking about for EcoVadis. So we are happy to also provide you with personalized live demonstrations from the system, because today time was quite limited. And we are also happy to, for example, discuss further proof of concepts to really provide you with valuable task and process enhancements, and how powerful and capable our systems or ecosystem is. Right.
One more question popping up. My company operates in multiple countries around the world. Are there any countries where you can't help? No, we are not. We're globally distributed, more than 200 countries worldwide. And as I said, I fully agree with Marcus. We can help you, so please reach out to us. We're happy to demonstrate and to even give you an individual offer for your business case. And especially the one with the global supply ship is very interesting for me, so please reach out.
Yeah, and by the way, we are quite pragmatic, so we are able to provide you with some demos within 2 weeks. Yeah, so no need to wait. So yeah.
One more good question. You talk about the ideal process. What is if you have already a process in place? Of course, there are processes in place, and we can easily adapt. I think it's for both. Synertrade can always optimize, and we can always help you with enhanced data on CSR performance. So actually, it can be remoduled or replanted, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
One more thing left. You will get a copy of that presentation, and the references that we gave to Gartner and all that studies are part of that, and we're also there to be reached out. Our email addresses are part of that slides. So thanks. Hope to see you soon, guys. But who will end this? Who will end this?
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Marcus, and thanks to everyone who joined in for this valuable webinar. And just a closing remark from my side is really overcoming the biggest barrier of poor data quality, and also achieving resilience and going just beyond risk mitigation is what Synertrade and EcoVadis could really bring value for the customers out there. So amazing session, amazing questions, and thank you so much, everyone, for your participation. And we'll keep in touch.
Happy to see you maybe in the next webinars. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.